Okay, so how much do you think you know about numbers? Now, I'm going to take a guess that a lot of you do not understand numbers as well as you think you do. But some of you might be saying, come on, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I am an expert in numbers. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and demonstrate my knowledge and ability in numbers. Here's one, here is two, there is three, there is four. Well, listen, that is a great start, but that's not what I'm really talking about here. I'm talking about numbers like this, okay? Now, 1/2, this is the square root of 3, this is -7, this is 0, this is 5.9. These numbers here are specific types of numbers, and you got to understand the kind of subset or the specific type of different numbers you're going to be working with in more advanced math like algebra. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm talking about here. So my question to you is this: could you classify these type of numbers? All right. So do your best to kind of classify them, or just tell me what you think you know about numbers. And if you don't know anything other than how to count, no problem. I will kind of basically what I'm going to do here is give you a quick crash course on these type of numbers, right? So this is something that is essential for you to be able to understand higher mathematics like algebra. But again, if you know how to classify these specific numbers, go ahead and put your answer into the comment section. And as I go through this video, you'll see exactly what type of numbers these are. But before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And it really is my true passion to try to make learning math as easy as possible. So if you need assistance in mathematics, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, don't forget to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, or as we go through this video, you'll see what type of numbers these are. So let's just kind of hold off here and kind of go ahead and just start talking about numbers, right? So the numbers that I'm kind of referring to here is the real numbers, okay? It's the set of real numbers. And you can see here, I have like a little line with two arrows. This is what we call a number line, right? So this is a number line. And if you think back in school, you probably had one of these on top of the chalkboard or whiteboard. It was like a long line with different numbers on it. And this is basically the real number system, okay? Now, when you start learning about real numbers, you don't learn the entire real number system. Okay, you basically learn a little bit of about the system, but then you kind of grow your knowledge more and more and more until you understand the entire real number system. And you must absolutely understand the different types of numbers that make up the real number system to be, successful in mathematics. Because as you progress, there's even other types of number systems called complex and imaginary numbers. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but numbers is a big, big topic. So we're going to go ahead and just do a quick crash course on the real number system right now. Okay, so we're going to start off with these numbers right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, in the beginning of this video, I said, hey, if you know how to count, that's pretty cool because if you think about it, way back in the good old days when people really didn't, have a strong number system, or well, I'm not saying number system, but they didn't really have established mathematics. Let's suppose somebody, let's say here is a little buffalo or my little depiction of an animal, and you see that animal, you're like, I see one animal, right? So you're like, okay, here's my animal, I see one. Okay, and you can kind of represent that by the digits of on your hand, right? So here's one. These right here, these type of numbers, if you see two of these, by the way, over here, right? So that would be two. Okay, these numbers are called, whoops, let me go and highlight that. This is called the counting numbers. Okay, so the first numbers that make up the real number system are the counting numbers. Here's one, there's two. It's what we can see, or the natural numbers. Okay, so you need to understand this terminology. You might be like, yeah, I don't care what these numbers are called. One, two, three, four, as long as I can count. Well, not so quick because you're going to be asked to classify numbers. Again, if you're taking, a math course like pre-algebra or beyond, you need to know the different types of numbers. So the first type of numbers are the natural numbers, sometimes referred to as the counting numbers. Okay, so things like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., because these are naturally occurring numbers. Now, let's suppose, our person, thousands and thousands of years ago is looking out here and they don't see anything. They're like, well, I don't see anything. How can I express that? What, digit on my finger should I use to express nothing? Well, there is a special symbol that people came up with, and it's called zero. Okay, so the inclusion of zero was a big, big deal in math. Okay, so right here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the natural numbers or naturally occurring numbers or counting numbers. Now, when we add 0 to express, hey, I don't see anything, this right here, this entire number system now is called the whole numbers. Okay, whole numbers. So you might be saying, I don't care what they're called, Mr. YouTube Math Man. I know 0, I know 1. Well, listen, again, you're going to be tested on this, right? I'm not telling you anything that you don't need to know. So try to take notes, and it's not that difficult, right? So, we don't have to spend, a full hour on this. So the whole numbers, okay? The whole numbers are the natural numbers plus 0. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into some exciting. We're going to take these number systems, okay, the whole numbers, and we're going to kind of make a big jump here in just 1 second. But before I show you that jump, I want you to jump right to that subscribe button and hit that thing and hit that notification bell as well. You have no idea how much this helps me on my YouTube channel. Okay, so if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. If you are considering, don't even consider, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But anyways, back to these numbers. Okay, so we have the whole numbers, okay, which again, we're kind of just building up here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are what? These are the natural numbers or the counting numbers. Then we added in 0, so now we have the whole numbers. Now, notice here, if I take the whole numbers, okay, and I put a negative sign in front of the whole numbers, I have these numbers right here. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3, -4. These entire groups, the number right here, are called the integers. Okay, integers. So if you ever heard of an integer, that's what these are. But what we want to do here is start to organize this a little bit better on the real number line. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So here is our real number line, and we're kind of, getting this real number line built out, if you will. So 1, 2, 3, and then of course numbers increase, they get larger going in this direction. These numbers here, of course, are the counting numbers or the naturally occurring numbers. When we throw in 0, now we have actually let's kind of do it this way. So right here, this would be we'll call them the natural numbers. Again, some textbooks call them the natural numbers or counting numbers. Here is 0, and all these numbers here are the whole numbers. Now, if we take the positive whole numbers and the negative whole numbers, we have the entire set of integers. Okay, so that would be, yeah, there's letters that go with this right here. I. Okay, so we have the integers, and the values go this way from 0. We're going to be counting to the left, and numbers are going to be decreasing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, but this is -1, -2, and -3. And it's important for you to understand that numbers going in this direction are greater than numbers to the left. Okay, numbers to the right are greater. So right here, if I asked you what is greater, 0 or -1, well, 0 is greater than -1. Okay, so here if we were comparing -3 and -2, -2 is greater than -3. Again, numbers are increasing this way and decreasing this way. Okay, so we're building out this real number line, and we're almost there. Well, maybe we're like halfway there. So let's continue on to understand more about the real number system. Okay, so now let's take a look at these type of numbers like 2/3, -1/7, 5, etc. So what type of numbers are these? Well, these right here are what we call the rational numbers, okay? then we oftentimes refer the acronym, or not the acronym, the letter for this number system is Q, rational. Okay, so when you hear this word in mathematics, rational numbers, rational expressions, you want to think of fractions. But rational numbers are numbers that we can express as fractions, and a fraction has what? A numerator and a denominator, like 1/3. Okay, so any number we can express as a fraction of integers. Okay, so we have to use only these numbers here. These are integers right here. If we can express a number using integers only, for example, 0.25, okay, that is a rational number because this number we can express as a fraction of any two integers, which of course is 1/4. Okay, so fractions, like we basically have nice whole numbers or integer values in the numerator and denominator, are rational numbers. Now, 5 right here, this is an integer. Okay, some numbers have multiple classifications. 5 is a counting number or a natural number. It's also a whole number. It's also an integer, and it's also a rational number because I could put 5 over 1 and now I have a fraction. Okay. All right, so we're almost there. So numbers that we cannot express as fractions are what we call irrational numbers. All right, so that would be IR. So an example of an irrational number would be like the square root of 2. So if you go into your calculator and take the square root of 2, you're going to get this lovely decimal, 1.41421356, and then your calculator screen is going to run out. It's going to have digits that go on and on and on. But here's the deal with this decimal, or this value. This decimal is non-terminating. In other words, it will never end. Okay, it goes out to infinity, and it doesn't repeat. Okay, so I have 2, 1, 3, 5, 6. In other words, I don't see a repeating pattern. So values of decimals that are non-terminating, non-repeating, these are examples of what we call irrational numbers. So like the square root of 2 is a number that cannot be expressed as a fraction of integers. Okay, so these type of numbers are called irrational numbers, and that's going to be it, okay, for the real number system. Okay, so for example, the square root of 2 would be about right here, and then we could just fill in, all these different type of numbers. You're going to have on this entire real number line, you're going to have, infinite amount of irrational numbers, rational numbers, whole numbers, integers, etc., etc. But, you might be thinking to yourself, well, wow, okay, that was interesting, but, I mean, I could do math without remembering exactly what type of numbers these are. Well, listen, okay, I'm telling you right now that you need to understand the classification of these numbers. Okay, this is not something you want to ignore if you truly want to be successful in mathematics. Now, I don't know how bad you want to learn math, but if you truly want to learn mathematics, you just kind of need to say, all right, I'll listen to you, Mr. YouTube Math Man. Now, if you want to know more about real number system, you might want to check out like my pre-algebra or algebra 1 course because this stuff is kind of really emphasized for those of you that are kind of getting into algebra. I'll leave links to those in the description of this video. But another thing that you want to know about real numbers as well is all the rules of adding and subtracting, multiplying, dividing, all the rules for like positive and negative numbers. So this is kind of the fundamental stuff of mathematics. You need to get this down before you move on to more exciting stuff, especially things like algebra. Okay, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.